This is your boy Roto Beast. I'm here with my boy Jeremy, aka DFS Dudes, and we're here to present you our NBA morning shoot around for Wednesday, November 21st. If you're new to this channel, please make sure and click the subscribe button below. This way you can watch all of our NBA, NFL, and MLB videos. If you haven't came and checked out our website here at dfscheatsheet.com, you're absolutely missing out. We have all the tools to help you compete with the pros day in and day out, including a complete optimizer, tons of content, everything that you need. So, hey, come check out the site, dfscheatsheet.com. So, hey, how you doing out there, Jeremy?
I'm good, man. Really good. Did pretty good tonight in NBA. Feeling good about it. Ready to get into tonight's slate. We got a bunch of stuff coming up in DFS, so let's just not waste any time and hop into it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm definitely ready to go. We got a bunch of games, so we're not gonna kind of spend a ton of time, especially on games that we're not really liking. We'll quickly mention a couple people and we'll move on. Otherwise, we're gonna be on this video forever. So yeah, real quick before we do jump into it, if you guys don't mind, please take that quick second, click the like button for me down below. Helps me out. I really, really appreciate you guys doing that for me. And yeah, so I mean, I'm ready to get into this slate. Like we said, it's a monster slate. Real quick, what's up, my boy Marv? Already jumped in the chat. Go jump. Follow along with us as we go through this slate. And let's go. So first game we're going to start with is going to be Indiana going into Charlotte to face the Hornets. This game actually doesn't have a Vegas line or over and under yet. We're waiting on some injury news, etc. So as always, I'll let you handle the visiting side of things, and I'll handle the home side of things. So yeah, go ahead and get us started with the Indiana side.
We'll start with Dame, man. Dame drops 50.2 fantasy points at $9,600 tonight, and then he's dropped $200 in a good spot. Another good team that they've got to take on. Say that again.
What we started with the Indiana at Charlotte.
Oh, are we? Okay, I'm sorry, man.
Oh, you're good, no problem at all.
Indiana, Victor Oladipo questionable, Miles Turner questionable. Like you said, waiting on injury news. Sabonis is a guy I'm going to continue to play, man. I played him the other night, and he dropped 43.3 FanDuel points. Look, this guy is extremely good. I really believe, you look at his game log, 43, 40 in his last two. He plays Atlanta and Utah. Atlanta, we know, notoriously not good against big guys, but I'm going to keep playing Sabonis. I like him on this slate. I think that people think because he's coming off the bench, he's overpriced. I think that he's fairly priced at 7,100. He can get you 6x, as we just saw. No problem getting 42 points. If Miles Turner is out, this guy for me is pretty close to a lock, and that says a lot considering the size of the slate it is and knowing you're going to need exposure across the board, really. Again, we got to monitor Victor Oladipo. If he doesn't go, Tyreek Evans off a huge price increase, $4,500 the other night, up to $5,800 now, but the opportunity is still there. We need him to get us basically 35 fantasy points to reach tournament value. If Oladipo doesn't play, that does also give Collison a boost. I'm not big on anybody else on this Indiana side. This game could be a blowout as well. Charlotte playing at a very high level right now. So, you got to really limit where you're looking. And Sabonis is a guy to me that just stands out like a sore thumb as a guy I really want to play in this matchup.
Yeah, so I mean, on the Charlotte side of things, I mean, there's just a couple obvious guys that you look at. I mean, first thing first, we always talk about it. We want to play Kemba Walker when he's at home. The guy's been on absolute fire as well. The price tag at 9.3, I definitely think it's still a fair price tag. Especially like I said, like the guy at home. Past two games, he scored 43 and 60 actual scoring points. So the guy's shooting the ball very, very well right now. You definitely can't expect him to continue doing this, but he's averaging almost close to 30 actual points a game. So the guy's definitely scoring the ball. I like Kemba Walker. He's going to be my first guy I'll touch on. Then I'll look at a guy like Jeremy Lamb. His price tag has ticked up a tiny bit. But I mean, he's playing well as well. Like you said, the Charlotte, as a whole, they're playing, not too bad. And they're, they've been taking care of business. So I like Lamb. It's all about minutes with him. If he's going to get a lot of minutes, he's going to get some fantasy points. We know that. We've seen it year after year with Jeremy Lamb. So I like Lamb in this spot. I definitely think you can look at him. I definitely think it's going to be a back and forth, up tempo game as well. So Lamb, and then the last guy I'm really going to look at, you can look at Nicholas Batum. I mean, his price tag is way down, 5,600. I understand that he's been all over the place, but I mean, this guy is good. He fills up the stat sheet. He does a little bit of everything. And I mean, at a 5,600 price tag, I definitely think he gives us some upside for tournaments. He does have 40 fantasy point upside. And really, I mean, that's really all that I'm looking at on the Charlotte side of things. I'm ready to move on.
So am I. Let's get to the exciting matchup.
Okay, so the next game we're going to talk about is going to be New Orleans Pelicans going into Philadelphia to face the 76ers. We pretty much got, Joel Embiid and Simmons going against Drew Holiday and Anthony Davis. So this is going to be an exciting game. This game has a 235 implied total, really high total, and Philly's favored by 3.5 in this game.
Look, the obvious thing to do is for me just to jump into Anthony Davis, but let's not do that yet because Elfrid Payton, that's one of the greatest things about this game now is we know Elfrid Payton's out having surgery on his fingers, so we don't have to worry about kind of figuring out and waiting to see if there's news. Is Payton going to play? Is he not? So we can jump on Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday on a little bit of a price drop at 8,800. He's averaging a double-double over his last 5 games, 21.4 points per game in 34.6 minutes and 10.2 assists. At $8,800 in this matchup, I don't care that Jimmy Butler's on the floor. I don't care. This dude is going to be an elite play in this spot against this team. I think there's going to be a ton of points in this game. This is one of those games that I want a game stack because of the fact that it could go into overtime and you could get a ton of goodness out of it if it does. There's a lot of good spots to look at starting with Drew Holiday. I like Mirotic at 7,600. I love Julius Randle at 7,500 coming off the bench, because he's going to be going against the likes of Mike Muscala, an Amir Johnson, those types of guys. I don't see him playing a ton of minutes against Joel Embiid. They're going to kind of miss each other. There may be a little bit of overlap, but I love Etuan Moore as well. I like their starting 5. Anthony Davis, Drew Holiday, have no problem paying up for Anthony Davis in this spot. I know the rule with 2 big guys go at each other, but I think that both of these guys in this particular matchup have enough finesse in their game to stay out of foul trouble. I don't see this being like, let me back my ass into yours and try to get my back to the basket and take you to the hole. I think there's enough finesse for both of these guys to stay out of foul trouble and still dominate the game. Both these guys know how to play off the ball as well and kind of dip and dive and get putbacks, etc. So I like this game a lot. To me, this is one of the best games on the slate. The Oklahoma City Golden State game would be a premier game, but we know we'll get to that later with who's not playing in that one. To me, I want to stack as many pieces from both sides of this game as I can. You'll touch on the Philadelphia side.
Yeah, I mean, and there's some actually really good plays on the Philadelphia side of things. So first thing first, now we have a little bit of a sample size with Jimmy Butler. And so we kind of see, what the roles are going to be. So Ben Simmons is still doing Ben Simmons things, filling up the stat sheet, does a little bit of everything. The thing about Ben Simmons is we don't have to depend on him scoring because he does everything. I think the price tag makes him definitely a little bit more of a GPP play because we do need about 48 for value. But I like him in this spot. I definitely think Ben Simmons can have a really good game here. Shooting guard, Jimmy Butler, 8,400. I don't know if I want to pay that price tag for him. I mean, he's scoring, he's doing that still. Don't get me wrong, but he's not getting the extra stats, and I think that's because you got a guy like Ben Simmons, you got a guy like Embiid, and they do a little bit of everything, and that's why Ben Simmons isn't getting those secondary. I mean, I'm sorry, that's why Jimmy Butler isn't really getting those secondary stats. So for me, he's a little bit overpriced. For what he's doing right now. JJ Redick, 5,500. The price stays fair. You need about 27 for value. He's their best shooter. He's in the starting lineup. He's getting a ton of shots. I like JJ Redick in this spot. Definitely think he's a good play. And then I'm going to go to a guy, I played him last game. He actually busted. I understand. But at a 3,800 price tag, this guy, his minutes are starting to creep back up, and they say he's going to play close to 30 minutes. This is just way too cheap for Wilson Chandler. Hasn't really been scoring. That's the problem, but we know this guy could definitely score the ball. If he's going to be in that starting lineup and be playing close to 30 minutes, I like Chandler a lot in this spot. I definitely think that he's in a good spot to do well. Then you look at the obvious. You got Joel Embiid, 11.2, but this guy is playing very, very, very well. And he, like I said, I was kind of taking a wait and see approach with the 76ers with the addition of Jimmy Butler. And it looks like Simmons and Embiid are still doing their thing. Butler hasn't really been taken away from them. So I like Embiid. And then lastly, I'm gonna look at Mike Muscala. Played him last game. He's 4,000. You need 20 for value. He's gonna play, 20, I would say close to 25 minutes a game is what he's gonna play. He's playing the backup center and he's playing the backup power forward right now. They're looking to get this guy some minutes, and we see against Phoenix, he only played 22 minutes, but he got us 19 and 5. 25 fantasy points. I was very happy with that last night. So I think that Muscala and Chandler are really good value plays. And if you want to pay up, you can look at Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons. And then, like I said, you can throw Redick in a couple lineups. He pretty much has unlimited shots. He can shoot as much as he wants. And that's really where I'm at with the Philadelphia side of things.
Hey, bro, let me ask two things. Let me ask you two things. One, I'm going to make a statement. TJ McConnell will be a better play tomorrow than Mike Muscala will for two reasons. One, Markelle Fultz and this shoulder thing, they're not going to play him. They said he's not even going to practice for like another week. He's going to see some specialists now about the shoulder. So McConnell, I think, is the guy who's going to benefit from that. I watched their last game. McConnell was a guy that they actually brought in at the end of the game for defensive reasons. It was kind of like Brett Brown was just like, that's it. I'm not playing Fultz anymore. My question is, Ben Simmons is a mismatch, don't you think? Don't you think Jrue Holiday really has to guard Jimmy Butler, that's a better matchup size-wise, Jrue Holiday and Butler, instead of Jrue Holiday trying to give his, the famous Jrue Holiday treatment to Ben Simmons? Ben Simmons seems like a mismatch for Holiday, no?
Bro, for me, I'm going to be completely honest, bro. Jrue Holiday, he got my respect. I've seen this dude go against, some of the biggest players in the league. He's a little dude, but this dude has a big heart. And I definitely think that he can guard Ben Simmons. I don't care. Jrue Holiday's a beast, bro. I was seeing him play hella good ass defense against Kawhi Leonard as well a couple games ago. So I like it. I like Jrue Holiday in this spot, and I definitely think he can play either Butler or Ben Simmons.
The crazy thing to me is Redick, man. Redick's in the best spot. His price is very fair.
Right.
That 20.6 points per game he's averaging over his last 5 games. He's their best knockdown shooter. This is a really good game. We could talk all about it, but we need to move on.
Yeah, so then we'll move on to the next game. Next game we're going to talk about, it's going to be the Toronto Raptors going into Atlanta to face the Hawks. This game, we're waiting on some news as well. Toronto is going to be on the second end of a back-to-back. So like I said, no Vegas line, no over and under yet. Definitely get us started with the Toronto side of things.
First thing that sticks out to me, Kawhi Leonard on back-to-backs is rested. Their whole team seemed like at one point today they might not play for different reasons. A newbie didn't play. He will probably be out again tomorrow. But here's the thing, right? There was a ton of guys at one particular point in the season where Price hadn't caught up to opportunity, and now Price is starting to catch up to their opportunity, and that's mainly Siakam and Ibaka. Siakam now at 7,500. You're looking at tournament value. We need 45 fantasy points to reach 6x. Ibaka, I probably trust a little bit more in this spot to reach value. But to me, I really want to see how short the rotation is going to be tomorrow. If Kawhi Leonard doesn't play, if a newbie doesn't play, I believe Kyle Lowry has an illness. He did end up playing today, but he was doubtful at one point today.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to correct you. Kyle Lowry is dealing with the ankle injury right now.
Ankle injury. I'm sorry. Yeah. Leonard, he's rested in this spot on back-to-backs. Lowry dealing with the ankle injury. He did play today. It is a back-to-back. They are on the road. So I want to see what happens with the rotation. If for some reason you have a newbie out, Leonard rests on a back-to-back, and Lowry doesn't go with his ankle injury because it's the Hawks, then there's some really good value that'll be on the board with the Van Vliet. Danny Green, anytime that Leonard doesn't play, is a great play. You can just take a look at his game log and match it up with when Leonard's been out and what Danny Green's done in those spots, and he's been outstanding. Siakam is a guy I want to play, but this dude John Collins, man, he's back and he's a beast, and his minutes are starting to tick up too. So we'll have to see on the Raptors side what it looks like tomorrow once news breaks. I really don't, I don't want to say one way or the other until we really know. There's a lot going on with this team.
Yeah, no, definitely. And honestly, I mean, this game is probably going to be a blowout. I mean, it is what it is.
This game could be close, though, if Kawhi Leonard doesn't play, if Kyle Lowry doesn't play, then you're looking at, this could be a very entertaining game with a lot of really good value in it.
Yeah. No, I mean, for me, if Lowry's out, if he rests, if Van Fleet's the guy that's going to start, Van Fleet's an absolute lock. I'm just going to leave that real quick.
You cannot say Dylan Wright is not either. They're the same price and really, averaging about the same points over the last 5 games, and the opportunity will be there for both of them.
Right. So on the Atlanta side of things, I mean, obviously you could look at Trae Young, 7,300, still, fair price tag. Strictly GPP play, but we know Trae Young does have 50 fantasy point upside. So definitely think when you're looking at Atlanta, you got to start with him. Trae Young's in a solid spot. And then, I mean, there's not really too many guys that are really jumping out to me on the Atlanta side of things outside of Trae Young. You mentioned him, John Collins. If he's going to, his minutes are going to continue to rise. I mean, last year he was easily a $7,000 player. So I think this is the buy low opportunity for him. It's all about if he's going to get the minutes or whatnot. I do like Collins a lot. And then lastly, a guy I think strictly GPP, but Alex Len, I mean, he has upside. 4,400. All we need for value is about 22. And I mean, this guy, like I said, he has 40 fantasy point upside. They're going to need him to be in there going against Ibaka, going against Siakam, going against Valanciunas. So I like Len. It's all about minutes with him. I definitely think you could consider him, though, as the G play. I mean, but for me, I mean, it's just really Trae Young, Collins, Lynn, all strictly GPP, and I'm ready to move on.
Yeah, move on.
Cool. So the next game we're gonna go to, it's gonna be the New York Knicks, who actually are gonna be on the second end of a back-to-back, going into Boston to face the Celtics. This game has a 218 implied total, and Boston's favored by 14 in this one.
Bro, I didn't want to say anything last night in the video, but I was all over Hardaway today, and I couldn't do it to you last night. We had a lot going on, and with what we're doing with the site. So, but Hardaway goes 5.6x tonight. I love this dude. I loved him in the spot tonight. I like him. 8,000 today, 7,500 tomorrow on a price dip. The guy's playing 32 minutes a game, just about, and averaging 24 real life points. I like him. I do. I like Hardaway. He's their scorer, and it seems like he's the one guy who's going to continue to get minutes. Outside of that, I mean, they play in a game tonight, and really Hardaway's the guy that shines. Cantor, he gets 26 and goes 4x. Burke, he goes 5.1. Burke's another guy, at least in these last 3 games, they've played him. He's got minutes. He had the monster game the other night. That's really it. We've talked about it all year long. This team is a mess. You don't know who's going to play minutes and who's going to get them where. The one guy that continues to just get his minutes is Hardaway. He's getting 31.8. Hopefully Cantor, he gets more minutes again, because this is a spot I really like Cantor. I love centers against Boston. I just do. I don't think Al Horford's a great defensive center under the basket. I think he gives up a lot of rebounds. So if you want to take a shot on Cantor, this seems like a really good spot at 6,500. The problem with the Knicks is you have to understand the Knicks as a whole are a GPP play only. There is nobody on this roster that is cash game viable, because for the last 2.5, 3 years, this team has done nothing but screw everybody up in this industry, because you can't predict or have any feel for who's going to get how many minutes. Hardaway seems to be the one guy that's going to get them. I'm really going to leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, this game is not very interesting. Obviously, before I even looked at the Vegas line, first thing I thought was the New York Knicks on a back-to-back blowout. Then I see the line, and I honestly think this game definitely is going to turn into a blowout. And another thing about the Boston is, they got a lot of guys in the share. It is what it is. You got Jalen Brown, Marcus Smart split in minutes. Hayward's, he's starting to get his minutes a little bit, but he hasn't really had the production that I'm looking for on a 6.4 price tag. Jason Tatum's been up and down, but he's also splitting a little bit of minutes with Marcus Morris as well. Horford splitting minutes with Baines. So for me, the only guy I'm going to look at on the Boston side of things, it really is Kyrie Irving. I mean, the guy's been playing very well. He's shooting the ball very well right now. He has some upside for us. I like Kyrie in this spot. And lastly, I mean, if we really think this game is going to get out of hand quickly and turn into a major blowout, then we can look at a guy like Terry Rozier as well. 3.9. The guy, if he's going to play about 5 minutes, he has a chance to absolute crush this price tag. We know Rozier's upside, easy six times upside if this game is going to be a blowout. He's going to play close to 25 minutes. So for me, I mean, like I said, you look at a little Kyrie Irving. If you think it's going to be a blowout, you can maybe throw in a little Terry Rozier and GPP, and that's really where I'm at.
Keep it pushing.
Cool. Next game we're going to go to, it's going to be the Denver Nuggets going into Minnesota to face the Timberwolves. This game has a 215.5 total. Minnesota's actually favored by 2 in this one.
Jokic price continues to go down from 9,700 just about a week ago. Actually, 7 days exactly was 9,700. You could take a look back to the 3rd of November when he was 10,100. Season high 10,200. I'm sorry, season high 10,300. All the way down to 9,300. And that's because his production really has been inconsistent. 39.2, 41.9, has a 51-point game against New Orleans. Then last night in a spot where he's dominated before against the Bucks, he only goes out and puts up 33.5 fantasy points. Jokic is a guy that's all over the map right now. Nobody seems to really understand what's going on. And I have to tell you that we've talked about it before, and they're just a better defensive team than they've ever been. They really are. They're a better defensive team. They're, towards the top of the league in defensive efficiency. Their possessions are down because of that. So, that's probably what the majority of it is. But 9,300 seems like a buy low opportunity. You look at the previous matchup here in years past, he's averaging 48 fantasy points against Towns. He has 350-plus point fantasy games. I like Jokic in kind of a buy low, off the radar spot here. The minutes are there, the points are there, but this guy had been getting a ton of assists and rebounds and blocks. Those are kind of what's missing from the equation. Gary Harris, another guy on a price drop, but Paul Millsap at 5,900. This is a guy that I think is the most fair priced in this particular matchup. There's a lot of guys in this rotation now, at the power forward position. We've talked about it. You got Saric, you got Gibson. They've given this dude Anthony Tolliver run. So, Robert Covington, if they want to play small and go Teague, Rose, Covington, Wiggins, and Towns, they can do that. So Millsap is a guy that I think can dominate in this spot. And that's another reason why Jokic's production is down. You take a look at what Millsap's doing, and he's playing 25 minutes, averaging almost as many points per game as Jokic's. So I like Millsap. I think he's probably the most fair price. Jamal Murray's price is down as well. Don't know if I like him in this spot, though.
Yeah, and then, I mean, on the Minnesota side of things, I mean, there's some guys that we could look at for sure. I mean, they're going to score points. They are favored in this game. The only thing, like you said, is Denver, they're a really, really good defensive team this year. Really good defensive team. And so, I mean, it's kind of like, that's kind of how I really feel about these Minnesota guys. First thing first, you look at Jeff Teague, you look at Derrick Rose. They're the obvious guys at the guard spots. They're going to play about 30 minutes a game. You look at Wiggins, all 3 of these guys, strictly GPP for me, but you could definitely look at them. I definitely think they're all in play. Covington, 6,600. Like you said, I mean, they could play him at the 4, play a little bit of small ball. Covington, he's been getting a lot of minutes. He's their starting small forward, and they have him out there for sure. So I think Covington's a solid play. And then you got Saric and Gibson are pretty much split in minutes, so I'm going to stay away from them. The Karl Anthony Towns, the guy has upside, but do I want to pay 10,000 where I need 50 just for value going against Jokic? Jokic is a really good defender. It's not the best matchup for Towns. So I definitely think he's strictly GPP. I mean, that's really where I'm at with the Minnesota side of things. I'm not really too excited. Like I said, I mean, you touched on it. Denver's a really good defensive team. So, I mean, you can look at the obvious guys, like I said, Teague, Rose, Wiggins, a little bit of Covington, and maybe Karl Anthony Towns, but they're all just GPP plays for me.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Cool. Next game. So this game is actually pretty exciting. You got LeBron going back to Cleveland for the first time since becoming a Laker. This game has a 221 implied total, and LA's favored by 9 in this one.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it. The attention's on LeBron James coming back to Cleveland. I think this is a completely different spot than when he was with Miami and he came back to Cleveland. Much different circumstances. He actually delivered a championship. I think that he'll get a very warm welcome tomorrow night in Cleveland. Look, there's guys on both sides of this. We know, you've got Larry Nance Jr., Jordan Clarkson, that former Lakers. They've got, I'm sure Channing Frye, he even played with the Lakers. So, I think you've got guys over here on the Cleveland side who also want to kind of get at their team. I think this game ends up being a really competitive game just for the fact that you've got human nature involved. You've got guys who want to go out and play. LeBron James doesn't want to go home and lay an egg. He wants to go out and dominate and show that he's LeBron James. So I think it'll be very popular tomorrow night, even at 11-5, because of the fact that it's LeBron James going back to Cleveland. Everybody wants to play the narrative. Ingram has quietly been really good lately. I think he can get a 6X. We only need 37.8 fantasy points from Ingram. Again, you've got a Larry Nance and a Jordan Clarkson on the other side. These guys played against each other. They're very familiar with each other. JaVale McGee seems like he's in a really dominant spot at 6,000. Could be a very low-owned guy tomorrow night. And then, you got to like Kuzma and you got to like Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball, the reason I like him is because he's been in very popular spots and he's dudded and laid eggs. And I think that people – the first game without Rondo, he was very popular. It was a shorter slate. He laid a dud. I think he got 18 fantasy points. They go in the next night. They play Miami, another spot. People load him up, 18 or 19 fantasy points. I think we're at that point. People are like, I'd rather go somewhere else and play Lonzo Ball. And I think he can have a really good game tomorrow night. Again, going against former teammates as well. So I like their 5 starters. I think that Josh Hart on any slate and Tyson Chandler in his current role on any slate are very good tournament plays and your number 2 spots on FanDuel. Or, you could even look to play a Tyson Chandler as a utility spot to get an extra center in there on DK. So I like the Lakers. I like pretty much 6 guys that I'll look to play tomorrow night.
Yeah, on the Cleveland side of things, honestly, it's almost a complete pass for me, for sure. But I definitely think that there is a couple spots you can look at. I'm gonna play the narrative, and I'm gonna look at a guy like Jordan Clarkson, and I'm gonna look at a guy like Larry Nance going against their old teams that they got traded from last year. Definitely think that you can look at those guys. Colin Sexton. He's questionable right now. If he's out, I think that Clarkson could pick up a couple extra minutes as well. Play a little bit of point guard. And then, you could throw in a little bit of Tristan Thompson in GPP. I do like big guys going against the Lakers. That's it for me. I'm just going to go with Clarkson, going to go with Larry Nance, playing the narrative on them, and maybe a little bit of Tristan Thompson in GPP.
Keep it pushing.
Cool. This game is actually going to be a pretty good game right here. We got Portland Trailblazers going into Milwaukee to face the Bucks. This game has a 226 implied total. Milwaukee favored by 6 in this one. And I just quickly want to mention that Portland is on the second end of a back-to-back. And
I believe got smacked last week or 10 days ago at home against Milwaukee. So you look, like I said, when we hopped into the slate, I jumped ahead of myself and started talking about Lillard. Drops 50 in Madison Square Garden tonight. Price reduction. I like Dame. Dame's got to play well. And the thing that I really like about this dude is that his assists this year are up, and he's kind of figured it out. Like what he gives you is what the game dictates. He's not trying to force things anymore. If the game dictates for him, to pass the ball and guys are knocking shots down around him, he'll distribute and he'll facilitate the offense. If the game gets to a spot where they need buckets, Dame will go to the hoop. He'll get to the free throw line. So I like the way he's playing right now. I think he's kind of figured something out this year. Portland's a good team, man. They're a very good team. And I like Dame a lot. I think Dame's a really good play tomorrow night. Nurkic, look, we've continue to take centers against Milwaukee all season long because of Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez doesn't rebound the basketball. Like we said, he likes to stand out on the perimeter. He likes to try and knock down threes. Milwaukee has to have other guys rebound. 31.6 fantasy points for him in the last meeting, November the 6th. So I like Nurkic a little bit. McCollum playing really well as of late. No problem getting us 30 fantasy points. We need about 40.2 fantasy points. I don't know if that's there tomorrow night for value in tournaments, but Evan Turner is a guy that I will look to play tomorrow. I think this is an Evan Turner type of game, and that's really where I'm going to keep it.
Yeah, I mean, on the Milwaukee side of things, 4 guys I'll look at, and that's really where I'm at. First thing first, Eric Bledsoe, 7,300. I mean, he's consistent. For him to hit value on this price tag, we need about 36. And I mean, what the guy's doing, he's got you, I mean, at least 32 and 6 straight, definitely giving us a solid floor. He's a guy that when he's going to go against a good point guard like Lillard, Eric Bledsoe's a gamer. He'll step up to the challenge. Lillard isn't the best defender, so I like Eric Bledsoe a lot in this matchup. Same thing with Chris Middleton going against. Actually, no, I'm sorry. They have Chris Middleton playing the small forward. Brogdon's playing the shooting guard. But I still like both of these guys. Middleton is Milwaukee's best, just pure scorer. Actually scoring the ball. So he gets a ton of shots. He's a really good 3-point shooter. Fair price tag. I expect this game to be close. I like Middleton. And I like Brogdon. 5,000. We need 25 for value going against McCollum. Plays a little bit of backup point guard as well. The guy has, upside. He can get us 6, 7x on this price tag. He's shown us that, already earlier this year. So I like Bledsoe, I like Brogdon. And then lastly, you go with the guy himself. I think this is a spot where Johnson's going to have a great game. He didn't have a good game last time against him. Played this game in his past, pretty much 10 games. So I definitely think he's going to have a much better game this game. He's a guy that, he's filling up the stat sheet, doing a little bit of everything. So I like Antetokounmpo in this spot as well. And that's really where I'm at.
Yep. I feel it. We can pass the next game if you want to. I really have no interest in Detroit and Houston other than Blake Griffin. So
yeah,
up to you.
Quickly just go through it real quick. So it's really fast. We got Detroit going into Houston to face the Rockets. This game has a 215.5 implied total, and Houston's favored by 8.5 in this one.
So look, Blake Griffin, if he was $500 cheaper, I would probably have close to 100% exposure to him tomorrow because I think you can lock him in for 50 tomorrow. I think it's the one guy that he's got familiarity with this. He's played good against him in the past. He's got a couple of 50-point fantasy games last year against Houston. Blake Griffin to me, but it's 9,200 and you need 55.2 fantasy points for tournament value. I just don't know if this game can stay close enough, long enough. Houston favored by 8.5. The only thing is that can keep this game close is Houston. They're almost last in offensive efficiency this year. They're not playing anywhere near the pace they played at last year. Really slowed down. So I just don't like this game. I'm going to say Blake Griffin is the one guy that I'll play. But, even at that, at 9,200, I'm not sure I want to go there.
Yeah, I mean, and then if you're looking, at the Houston side of things, I mean, you just look at the obvious dude, James Harden. He's definitely in play. Chris Paul's in play. Eric Gordon, 5,000, strictly GPP, but you could look at him. Capella's having a really good year. They're going to need him to be on the floor. The only problem with Capella is just, rules. Hey guys, you got Drummond, you got Capella. One of them is going to get in foul trouble. But he's a good player, though. He's definitely a good play. So, I mean, like you said, I'm not going to spend too much time on this game. You just look at the obvious guys, Harden, Chris Paul, Capella, maybe a little bit of Eric Gordon. And then you could even look at a guy, James Ennis, as a, punt play. The guy, he's showing us he's been pretty decent on the season. And, at a 3.8 price tag, all we need is about 19 for value. And he has an easy 6 times upside on this price. And that's really it for me.
Yeah, I'm ready to get into the next one.
Cool. Next game we're going to go with is going to be the Phoenix Suns going into Chicago to face the Bulls. This game has a 213 implied total, and Chicago is favored by 2. This is probably the first time all season that Chicago has actually been favored in a game.
Last year when they played at Chicago, Devin Booker went off for 51.6. This is a buy low opportunity on Devin Booker. Had a really solid game against Philadelphia in their last game. You see the minutes are there. They're always going to be there with Booker, approaching 37 minutes per game. I like Booker a ton on this slate as your top shooting guard option. I think the upside is there. Both of these teams are just bad enough and both just good enough that this game could be a really good basketball game with no defense being played. DeAndre Ayton, I'm going to continue to play centers against Chicago. We've done it all year long, going back to the first few games of the season when we didn't even know what was going on with Robin Lopez. Now we know for sure what's going on in that situation. So I'm going to continue to take centers against them. Very fair price at $7,000. TJ Warren, another guy, very fair price at $7,000 for the amount of minutes he's getting, almost 39 minutes a game over his last 5. Ariza's played really good. And this guy, Mikal Bridges, he's played really well. So those 5 guys for me, all in play. You could even look to play if you really wanted to punt a power forward position tomorrow on a big slate. You could look to go with Rashawn Holmes, who's getting 16, 17 minutes a game right now in a good spot against a team that's not good against bigs and against a team he's got familiarity with, being that he's a former Sixer, was in the Eastern Conference, played the Bulls more than twice a year. So you could even look to punt possibly with the Rashawn Holmes. If you want to look at a drop spot play with upside, that would be a good spot to do it with. But I really like Devin Booker. I think this is a buy low opportunity on a guy who's a $9,000 price tag consistently last year between $8,500 and $9,000. Starting to get into a rhythm, had a really solid game back against Oklahoma City where he had 37.8 in 39 minutes. And then, obviously the 50.6 in 36 minutes against Philadelphia the other night. So Booker's my top play here, but I love Ayton. I love fantasy. Daily fantasy is about opportunity, and in NBA, minutes equal opportunity. I say it all the time. You're getting 39 to 40 minutes, and you're a guy like Warren that can score with nobody really on this team that can guard you. I love TJ Warren as well. So Booker and Warren, my favorites, as well as Ayton. Look to punt if you want the Rashawn Holmes or Mikal Bridges.
Yeah, and then on the Chicago side of things, you're pumping up Booker, so I'm going to go right to Zach LaVine. I think that Booker and LaVine, they're both young studs, and they're going to go back and forth. We've seen Zach LaVine is just underpriced for what he's doing for the Chicago team. I'm just going to say that. His usage is crazy. He had a couple of games that 27, 25. I understand that's not what we need at this price tag. We definitely need about 40. But overall in the season, I'm looking at the whole body of work, and this dude just been playing very well. I expect this game to be an up-tempo, back-and-forth game. No defense is going to really be played. So on the Chicago side of things, I'm going to go with their best player and go with Zach LaVine. Then small forward, you can look at Jabari Parker. He's been hit or miss on the season. But, we know Parker definitely has some upside. It's just all about the minutes with him. Some games he's getting, 35 minutes. Some games he's only getting 25. So really with me, strictly GPP, when I'm talking about Jabari Parker. And then lastly, I'm gonna do it for you. Fanduel Carter, the young dudes, he's good, man. And you've been high on him since the very beginning of the season. He hasn't had no really, really crazy monster games lately, but he did show us earlier in the season that he has 40, 50, even 50 fantasy point upside. So GPP, you can look at Parker, you can look at Wendell Carter, and then I definitely think Zach LaVine is borderline cash. I think he's a good play. I think he's the best play on the Chicago side of things, and that's it for me.
The crazy thing about Wendell Carter is the minutes, right? You take a look back on November the 3rd, he played 36 minutes. And then now, on the 17th this month, just days ago, he only plays 22 minutes. The thing that's consistent, though, is on the season, he is averaging right about 1 fantasy point per minute. So it's a minutes deal with him. The guy's got so much talent and upside. Just a matter of can he stay on the floor.
Right. All right, so I'm ready to move on. Next game we're going to talk about is going to be the Brooklyn Nets going into Dallas to face the Mavericks. This game has a 215 over and under, and Dallas is favored by 5.5.
Man, this dude Russell put in work tonight, man. He put in some work. 46.8 fantasy points, 46.6 on the 17th against the Clippers. I wasn't high on him. $7,400. If he's going to have this high of a usage rate, you've really got to keep locking him in. The Mavericks, they're not a great team, but they're a good young core of guys. They've put points up. We know they absolutely smacked Utah around a few nights back. Jared Allen, I'm not going here. I'm just not going there. I'm really keeping it in two spots. I'll continue to roll out Damari Carroll just because I'm going to continue to do it because I believe in the guy as a player. But it's going to be about minutes. He's a GPP play only, drop spot play at this point. But you see he's at 21.6 minutes per game and 10 real points in his last 5 games of what he's averaged. So D'Angelo Russell, Dinwiddie's going to continue to be a solid play with no Karis LeVert. Plenty of upside, playing 30 minutes basically. So Russell, Dinwiddie, and then for me, I'm going to keep playing Damari Carroll. He's going to go off sooner or later. That's just kind of my rule. I just stick with guys that I really think are in a good spot.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then I mean, on the Dallas side of things, I mean, first thing first, you could look at Dennis Smith, 6,000 up tempo game against Brooklyn. We need 30 for value, and he's consistently been around 30 fantasy points a game. It's all we say this about a lot of guys, but in basketball, it's all about minutes. I mean, that's really what it is. And if he's gonna play close to 30 minutes, especially against this Nets team, I like Dennis Smith a lot. You can look at the rookie Doncic. I mean, for me, he's 100% GPP just because the price tag is so high. 7.6 for value. You need about 38. And I mean, he definitely has 38 fantasy point upside. We've seen it, already this season. He's gonna play a ton of minutes. So I like the rookie, but he is a GPP play. The guy Harrison Barnes is just too cheap. He's not even 6,000. I mean, they're disrespecting this dude a little bit. I understand he had a bad game against Memphis, but most of these Dallas Mavericks did. I mean, Memphis is, they're not the same defensive team that used to be, but they're still not a bad defensive team. They still have Marc Gasol and Conley, who are both very good defenders. I'm going to go right back to the well with Harrison Barnes in the up-tempo game. I like him. And then really the only other guy I'm going to look at, DeAndre Jordan. I love centers, been playing centers all year, going against Brooklyn. There's no point in me getting away from it now. Go right back to the well. I mean, Jordan hasn't been doing nothing special. I understand. But if he's going to have a monster game in a breakout game, I definitely think it could be this spot going against Brooklyn. And that's it for me, man.
Yeah, man.
Cool. So you're talking about games to skip. This next game is a skip for me. You got Memphis Grizzlies going, and it's funny because I was talking about Memphis. I didn't even know that they were next. So you got Memphis Grizzlies going into San Antonio to face the Spurs. This game has a 200 over and under, very, very low. Spurs are favored by 2.5. So, I mean, if you want, we could just say skip on this game, to be honest. But I mean, if not,
I'm going to mention one guy because I think he's an awesome GPP play tomorrow. I think he'll be super low owned, coming off 2 really huge games, 59.1 and 55. You take a look at his minutes, 35, 38, 35, 36, 37 in the last 5, and that's Marc Gasol at 9,000. For the season, the guy's averaging 37.5 fantasy points. He's averaging 1.1 fantasy point per minute. I think that on a large slate in a game that has a super – look, here's a deal for me with Memphis, okay? Even San Antonio, every single time these guys are on the slate, the over-under is going to be one of the lowest ones because they're pace-down teams. We know that. They're going to have the lowest implied totals on the board. That's just what it's going to be. There's people who still have to get – there's still going to be 100 points scored on each side of this, right? And guys got to do it. And to me, I think Gasol is a guy you can look at in GPPs at 9,000 that you can get really low owned, who's got 60-point upside. You need 54 for tournament value at 6x. He's got that in each of the last 2 games. You really want to look at his last 10, and he's got 4 50-point games over his last 10 and a couple of 44, 45, 49s. So I'm going to mention Gasol. I will have exposure to him tomorrow because I think nobody else will, and he's playing at a high level and playing a ton of minutes. I mean, like I said, 37, 36, 35, 38, 35, 41. So a lot of minutes. I think 9,000 scares people off. I think the implied total scares people off. And obviously the low over under scares people off. But this is a spot where he can go out and dominate against the LaMarcus Aldridge. They don't really have a true center in San Antonio. Aldridge is a power forward. He's always been a power forward. He's just playing this center spot. He doesn't have his brother. He's ruled out. So I know I'm making a big speech here about Gasol, but this is a really good tournament play tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, on the San Antonio side of things, I mean, simple. You look at DeMar Tech, and then you could look at LaMarcus Aldridge. But like you said, going against Gasol, it's actually a really tough matchup for Aldridge. So for me, it's really, I mean, my favorite two plays is going to be DeMar DeRozan and Rudy Gay, and I'm ready to move on.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So the next game we're going to talk about, it's going to be the Sacramento Kings going into Utah to face the Jazz. This game has the 219 implied total, and Utah's favored by 9.5 in this one.
Sign me up for De'Aaron Fox, bro. Sign me up.
Yeah, sign me up. Go ahead. There's one thing I quickly want to mention is the Kings they've been surprising people, man. They got a good young core for sure. That's before we would look at the Kings and we would just be like, oh, they've been good. So yeah, go ahead and get on the side.
Yeah, so for me, like I said, give me some De'Aaron Fox. I like him a lot. He let people down. He shot, I believe, 1 of 12 last night from the floor and had 10 assists and still found his way to get 25 fantasy points on a very terrible shooting night. If he knocks down a few more shots and just shoots his season average, he absolutely reaches and exceeds value. So for me, I'm going to load him up. That's really where I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep going back to Fox. And like I said, I'll tell you guys this till I'm blue in the face. Every single time a guy's in a popular spot and he doesn't come through and lets people down, recency bias takes over and people will skip him on the next slate. He was really popular on the slate last night and he disappointed, obviously, and didn't reach value. He still got 25.1 and made 1 shot from the floor. So sign me up for De'Aaron Fox.
I mean, and then, on the Utah side of things, you can look at a guy like Rubio. I mean, we know Rubio. We've seen it in past years. Rubio has upside. He's always going to get you some rebounds. He's always going to get you some steals and some assists. But when he scores, he has monster games. 2 back-to-back games of 28 and 20 actual scoring points. I like Rubio in this spot going against Sacramento. And then, you can look at, obviously Donovan Mitchell going against, Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield's a scorer. Donovan Mitchell, he's their best scorer. I like him in this spot. Joe Ingles, 5,700. Fair price tag. Crowder's obviously in play as well. He's getting his minutes. Favors, his price tag is up in the value. I mean, and he's not getting the minutes that I want. I mean, he definitely has 50 fantasy point upside. But I'm not really going to look at favors. And then, Gobert, he's actually under 8,000 now, so the price tag is not too bad. He has some upside. And who's really going to, Cauley Stein go around. So I like him. So for me, it's really just Rubio, Mitchell, Gobert, and then you can look at Eagles and Crowder as GPP plays.
I have to also mention Bogdanovich and Shumpert. Bogdanovich really, really solid since he's come back in the lineup for Sacramento. Last night had a really good game as well. So I didn't mention Bogdanovich, but 22.5 fantasy points and 25.7 in his last 2 games. Minutes are starting to tick up a bit. So I like him. And Shumpert, like I've been saying, Shumpert's been the veteran leader of this young team. And Shumpert's the one guy who's getting a ton of minutes. 30 minutes again last night, 38.6 fantasy points last night, in a really good spot again. So I like the Sacramento team, man. I really do. Buddy Hield's price all the way down from that $8,200 price mark he was at to $6,600. So this is a team you can continue to play. And Utah, they're not the same team defensively as they were before. We saw Dallas smack them around the other night. They've been struggling a little bit. So I like this Kings team.
Yes. Now we got the game of has one implied, and Golden State is favored by 1 in this one.
All right, man. So Russell Westbrook back. A lot of stuff going on with him, and look, we don't have to really promote this, right? Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant. I don't care who's out really for Golden State. I think these two dudes go at each other. Paul George has had some really good games against the Golden State Warriors, notably a monster game last year. I believe it was at Golden State where Paul George went nuts against the Warriors. So, I like George. It was last year, 63.5 fantasy points, and then he had a 51.7. So I like both these dudes. Steven Adams, he's always played decent against the Warriors as well. The Warriors really don't have a center. I know they've got this dude, Damian Jones, but, Steven Adams is going to eat this dude's lunch. So the one guy that's really not in play for me, I don't think anymore, is Schroeder. Price is down to 6,000, rightfully so, with Westbrook back. Be on the lookout to see what's going on with Abrines, with Nerlens Noel, and with Jeremy Grant, because if all three of those guys happen to be out, it really shortens up the rotation, and then there's more run, and you can look to a Dennis Schroeder. Schroeder had a really good game against Golden State with Russell Westbrook the first time these guys played this year, where he had 46.8 fantasy points in 34 minutes, and that was with Westbrook in the lineup as well. So at 6,000 as a tournament play, I do like Schroeder, but he's not the cash game staple that he was without Westbrook.
Yeah, so on the Warriors side of things, everybody's hurt for the most part, and that's really what's going on with the Warriors right now. I think Kevin Durant is a lock game, 10-7. He's a lock for me. I think Kevin Durant is a lock on tomorrow's slate. I will say that now. And then Clay's very close, 6.8. The price tag is actually down a little bit. They need Clay and they need Durant to score if they're going to stay in this game, if they're going to win this game. I think on the Golden State side of things, you definitely look at those two guys first. And then you can look at Iguodala. He hasn't done nothing special, but he has 40 fantasy point upside at a 3.8 price tag. He's getting the minutes for sure. So I like Iguodala. And then, lastly, the only other guy I'm really going to look at is going to be Quinn Cook, but he's strictly GPP because honestly, Russell Westbrook could just absolutely shut him down. I really don't like playing guards against Westbrook. That's kind of my thing. But yeah, that's really where I'm at with the Warriors side of things. And I think that's pretty much where I'm at with this slate as well.
Big slate, man. It's a really big slate. This is definitely a good slate, though. I like this slate a lot. There's a lot of good matchups. There's a lot of spots where you can be contrarian. And there's going to be some chalk as well. So I like this slate. It's a good slate. We'll see how it shakes out with news.
Yeah, so real quick, before we get out of here, let's see what the optimizer has. Obviously don't play these lineups. It's an early look into tomorrow. But obviously, okay, so they're liking the value at Moutier. Boom, there you go, bro. The guys we just talked about. You got work in there. You got Clay. You got Harrison Barnes. You got Durant. So I think we're actually pretty spot on as far as our plays. You got some, Parker in there. Yeah, man. So tomorrow's gonna be interesting. There's a lot of ways that you can go about the slate. Usually last year I would say, on a monster slate like this, you kind of go more of a balanced lineup. But this year, with the fact that one of the scores get taken off, it's really useless to go pretty much balanced, in my opinion. Would you agree?
I don't know, man, because it just depends on what shakes out from a news standpoint. There's some really good spots. If there's going to be, I can see possibly getting two really big studs in your lineup tomorrow night and paying up in two spots if things shake out a certain way. If Kawhi Leonard doesn't play and that opens up a Van Vliet to put in your number 2 spot. If for some reason Jeremy Grant's out and Nerlens Noel is in, I think Nerlens Noel at 3,700 could be a phenomenal pump play at the center position, like a drop spot play. So I don't know. It could be if everybody ends up playing and all the news breaks to where everybody plays, then probably a balanced lineup is going to be where it's at. But it's NBA. We got to monitor news and see what happens, because I can definitely see scenarios with guys who are questionable right now where a lot of value could open up and you could really stack up a lineup.
Yeah, no, definitely. So just really quick, Tyler Right. Like I actually mentioned that as well. If Sexton is out, I really do like Clarkson a lot, especially going against his old team. He's gonna want to have a big game, so I like Clarkson a lot. And then also, yeah, Nance is another guy. I mean, I'm not really looking at Cleveland, but I did say my two favorite plays from the Cleveland side of things was Clarkson and Lance in the revenge game against their old team. I just quickly wanted to mention that because I had a couple people talking about it in the chat. So if you haven't already, please make sure and subscribe to this channel. Please make sure to click the like button on this video. Tomorrow, I will be back with my NBA core plays. So be on the lookout for that. Turn your notifications on. Go check out Jeremy on our DFS Cheat Sheet YouTube channel as well. He's been pumping out a ton of really good content over there. He will have his NBA GPP core plays up tomorrow on the DFS Cheat Sheet YouTube channel. Yeah, man, that's it. Thanks for helping me out with this video, Jeremy. Good luck to everybody on your guys' lineups tomorrow. Hit us up, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at RotoBeast. If you got any other questions, make sure to check out the site, dfscheatsheet.com. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it, and talk to you guys later. Night.